Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ask the Experts session on Microsoft certification. My name is Allison Cracker, and I'm going to be your host today. We have a wonderful panel of experts here to answer all your questions. Before we get started, I just want to do a little reminder for how to engage with our experts. So we have the Q&A chat, so feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A chat. You can either post anonymously or you can use your name. Now, we ask that you upvote some of your favorite questions, and those questions are going to be some of the questions that we get asked of our moderators. We have experts that are answering both verbally and in the chat, and so we're going to do our best to get to as many questions as time allows. But please do ask your questions, and again, engage with us. As a reminder, we do ask that you adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct. We'll have it here, and then we're also going to be placing it in the chat so you can review that. But we ask that that you take a quick look at that. With that, let me introduce our experts. We have just a fantastic group of folks that are available here to answer your questions. We have Sudarshan Krishnamurthy, who is our Director of Microsoft Certification Program. And then we've got Liberty Munson, who is the Director of Psychometrics here for Microsoft Certification. And then we have Eric Kamor, who is an Azure technical trainer and spends most of his days training customers. And then we also have Sarah Mashvich, and she is also an Azure technical trainer and spends most of her day training customers. Both Sarah and Eric were actually in technical trainings today. So we are very excited to have them join us. With that, we're going to go ahead and get started. And my first question is going to go to Sudarshan. So Sudarshan, could you talk through how Microsoft is closing the security skills gap?
Thank you for that question. Security is really at an inflection point. If you think about all the surface of attacks that are constantly increasing because of remote work and everybody being connected remotely, the surface of attacks is really increasing on the digital spectrum. Plus, we are also seeing very sophisticated attacks from nation state attacks that even recently happened, right? So from a security standpoint, it's really is at an inflection standpoint. And so we need to really make sure we have the right solution. So Microsoft security solutions are really built to address some of these emerging trends in security. However, we are seeing a significant amount of skills gaps in the security space. Today, we have about 3.5 million people short in the industry for specific security roles. So with that in mind, we are actually releasing a new set of security specific certifications and training. So we've announced 4 new security certifications and training today at Ignite. And these are at different levels. So there's a fundamental certification and there are 3 associate level certifications. So no matter where you are in your security journey, you can actually take these certifications and training and enhance your skills and help address those 3.5 million skills gap that I just talked about earlier. So that's Microsoft strategy on security, specifically on security skilling. If you are interested in these certifications and training, you can go visit the Microsoft Learn website and learn more about those certifications and training that we just announced.
Perfect. Thank you, Sudarshan. This next question is actually going to be for Liberty. On the subject of announcements, we also made another recent announcement. Could you talk through the certification renewal announcement that was recently made?
Oh, I would love to talk about this. I'm super passionate about this. This is something we've been working on for a little while, and we're super excited to finally launch it. But the idea is to create a more continuous learning experience related to a certification. So once you get certified, how do we make sure you keep up to date and keep your skills relevant in the workforce as the pace of technology changes? And requiring somebody to go and sit an exam every year or every 2 years is really burdensome. So how could we make this a simpler process, friction-free, that would entice people to want to keep their skills up to date? And that's what the new Cert Renewal program is all about. It's really about focusing on how do you maintain those skills, how do you keep up to date in those job roles that are critical to supporting organizations in their digital transformations.
Perfect. So another follow-up question on that then, Liberty, do all certifications have the option to renew?
All of our role-based and specialty certifications have an option to renew. Right now, fundamentals is not part of that conversation. So it's really just focusing on those job role certifications that we have.
Perfect. And then if someone has multiple certifications expiring around the same time, this is a question that we've been getting actually a lot today. What should you do? So if you've got multiple certifications expiring around the same time, what do you think someone should do?
What I would say is don't panic. We've tried to make this a very frictionless, simple process so that if you just take a couple hours to go through the learning path and maybe about 45 minutes to take the assessment, that's the kind of time investment we're expecting. And for many of you who are doing these jobs every day, you probably don't even need the learning path. You can just go take the assessment in 45 minutes and you passed your assessment, your certification is renewed for another year. Go do the next one, maybe not right away because it is a lot, just from a mental perspective. But maybe the next day. My piece of advice is don't panic. We've tried to make this as frictionless as possible so that we can make sure you still have the skills, that you stay engaged, but that if you have multiple certifications, it's not overly burdensome in the same way that taking multiple exams would be.
That's great advice for our certified community. Don't panic, kind of approach them each individually. That's really great advice. Okay, switching topics a little bit. Our next question is for Sarah. Sarah, could you talk through the difference between our fundamentals, our role-based, and our specialty certifications? And Sudarshan had mentioned, that we've got different types of certifications. So if you could kind of explain what the difference is between those.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we definitely get this question a lot from our learners. Essentially, fundamental certifications are kind of the entryway into the world of Microsoft certification. So it does span across different areas, whether it's Azure, Microsoft 365, or Power Platform. And essentially, it gives a chance for those individuals who want to build on their foundational learning and validate their foundational learning across those technologies as well. So fundamentals is optional. However, we do recommend it a lot, especially when those individuals are also looking to go to the role-based certifications as well. Which brings me to the next one that Sudarshan mentioned, which is also the role-based certifications. And as the name suggests, those are mainly focused on specific job roles. So here they cover all of the technologies that are specific to the job role specifications within a specific industry that works on a specific domain as well. Okay, and then lastly, you have the specialty certifications, and those are a lot more advanced than the role-based certifications as well as the fundamentals ones. And those are specialized in a very specific niche technology, and they could span Microsoft technologies, or they could also span third-party technologies that interact with Microsoft technologies or are hosted within Microsoft technologies as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's a new area for us as we've launched these relatively recently. So it's exciting to know that the differences between them. I think that's very helpful. This next question is going to be for Eric. Eric, we've got this question that gets asked often is, I'm a developer, or I'm not necessarily an IT pro. Why should I care about Microsoft certifications?
Yeah, that's a good one. That does come up quite a bit. Developers usually just write code. They don't think about what they're interfacing with and how things are changing. We talk about the speed of cloud, and you look at how much the technology that developers need to interact with, interface with, has evolved just over the past 5 to 10 years, right? So skills really have a much shorter life cycle than they might have had in the past. So continuing to learn, continuing to build your abilities and understand how to securely, efficiently, and reliably connect to these highly distributed services and build enterprise solutions is absolutely important. So no matter where you are on your developer career, entry level or highly experienced, getting certified, being able to stake that claim to fame of, I've achieved that, I have the badge, I have the certification, I've proved my knowledge, not only helps you continue to expand, but gives you something to look forward to as you go forward. So whether you move into the world of DevOps, cognitive services and AI, data science, or things related to IoT development, right? All of that area continues to grow, and the industry is very clear as to how much demand there is for those skills.
Perfect. That was a great answer. Thank you for that. As we've been talking about, role-based certifications, Sudarshan, this question is for you. Could you talk through why Microsoft made the shift to role-based certifications and kind of the both the vision behind it and where we're going moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we also get that a lot ever since we made that transition from the previous MCSA D&E portfolio to our role-based certifications. So if you think about the IT professional and the job role of an IT professional, in the past, these IT professionals and as yourselves, some of you in the room here, in the virtual room here, you probably were working on point solutions, point products, and then your role has evolved over time, where it's more around focused on solutions now and not on point products. So when you think about the job role of an IT professional and the different products that they work on, it's all solution focused. And therefore, when we made the switch from product-based certifications to role-based certifications, that was one of the key principles that we wanted to adopt to make sure we are looking at the industry trends and how the role of the IT professional is evolving. And based on that, we've made the transition to role-based certifications, where it's not just focused on one product, but it's around building the entire solution. So as you think about, some examples in that space, if you think about security, for example, it's not about just working on firewalls or web protection or endpoint protection like Microsoft ATP Defender. Those are all point products. But now the skill set that's needed for the IT professional, specifically in the security space, is end-to-end, right? Where you understand firewalls, you understand the concept of endpoint protection, and then you can also work on Azure Sentinel as a SOC analyst. So that's why it's becoming very, very specific to job roles instead of the point products that used to be there before. That's the reason why we made the switch, and we'll continue to. And these role-based certifications are all built with subject matter experts actually providing feedback as a day in the life of the professional who's actually involved in building these solutions together. So we're taking their input and building these role-based certifications. And we'll continue to monitor all the new job roles that are coming in the industry, and then we'll add more certifications aligned to those job roles. And that's where we're going in the future as well. So I hope, Allison, that helps answers the question.
That does answer the question. Thank you, Sudarshan. So as Sudarshan mentioned, we've been talking about kind of the shift to role-based. And this next question is for Liberty. As we've made this shift, we've been seeing a lot of changes happening in our certification program. And I know that some people are having maybe a hard time keeping up. So could you talk through why some of the changes happen and what is some of the intent behind them, and then the best way for folks to kind of stay up to date?
Well, the short answer is it's the cloud, and it's constantly changing. And so it is this interesting balancing act that we have, in that the technology is constantly evolving. So how do we keep our exams up to date and keep the learning content up to date and make that an experience that is reasonable to keep candidates interested in wanting to be certified, and giving them the ability to get the skills that they need if they need to go through learning and still have them aligned to the exam. So what we're trying to find is the right cadence where we're keeping up to date with the technology and still giving candidates enough notice about upcoming changes that would impact their certification and their exam experience so that they can be prepared. So we do look at each of our role-based and specialty exams every 2 months, and we update them based on any changes in the technology. And so it is a pretty frequent cadence, but we do try to let our candidates know that exams are going to be updated, and by telling exactly when they're going to be updated in the exam details pages, we show not only what is going to be updated, but what it's going to become, so you can clearly see where the changes are. So the best way to stay up to date is to know when you're going to take the exam, and then make sure you're constantly checking the exam details pages for when the next time we're going to update the exam is. But it is about every 2 months. So if you see something is going to update on March 26th, the next time we'll update it is March, April, May 26th-ish. So that's kind of a way to think about it. Is for the role-based and specialty exams, we do try to keep up with the pace of change in the technology by updating our exams, but still trying to provide that level of insight for our candidates as they prepare, so they know when they should take it, if they should wait to take it, because I'm scheduled to take it this day. You're going to update it. I'm scheduled to take it on May 25th. You're updating it on May 26th. So good. You're updating it on May 26th. I'm scheduled to take it on May 27th. Maybe I want to pause so that I can and reschedule it for June 5th to give yourself a little time to pick up on any changes that we're making to the exam.
And Liberty, a follow-up question from the changes perspective. So when we think about getting ready to take your exam or even keeping up to date with the technology, we know that it's hard to keep everything up to date, including the training. So how do, and how should our audience think about staying up to date with the technology to prepare for that exam if maybe the training isn't always up to date or there's lots of changes? Do you have other tips and tricks for staying up to date?
Well, here's the thing is that we do recognize that is a challenge in this cloud-based world where things are changing so fast, that we do try to make sure that the learning content is aligned to the exam content. So we won't release updates to the exam until we know when the learning content is going to be in market to support those changes. So that's kind of I know it sometimes feels like the learning content is out of date. I saw that in some of the comments, but we're moving as fast as we can to keep up with the pace of change, and we're trying to keep all of this in alignment so that people can leverage the learning if they need to in support of the exam. But I think we all need to recognize that we are talking about something that is changing. It's so rapidly that it's very hard to have to ensure everything is in lockstep, but we do the best that we can to make sure that learning and the exam content are kind of updated at the same cadence and at the same time.
Perfect. Thank you. So speaking of learning and preparation, Sarah, this next question is for you. How do, or what should our audience think about when it comes to preparation resources? So what type of training is available, and then where do they discover that training?
So there are a lot of training resources available, like definitely for those who want to go through classroom training, there is a lot of those available as well. But for those who just want to basically get started on a specific certification path, there's always a number of Microsoft Learn paths that they can go on and to just learn more about those technologies. One thing like I recommend a lot for my learners is that if they are interested in a specific certification path, then if you just search for that certification path on really any search engine, you're able to see more details around the certification path. So that's definitely a great way to get started, to just look at what are the objectives are for that specific path. And then underneath that, you'll see like a number of Microsoft Learn modules that you can go in to learn more about those technologies. So that is always a really great place to start, which is the Microsoft Learn resources. Also, if you go directly to the site, you'll be able to browse by a specific job role and then go into the different modules that are offered there. Then another thing I always recommend to just get started with a technology or a certification path and prepare for that is always go through the online learning resources. The Azure documentation always has the most up-to-date information about a certain technology. So definitely when you see there are some outdated content, some inconsistencies, always go there. Always Microsoft Learn will also pull a lot of the information from the online documentation. Then as far as classroom learning, the ESI program that we are in, we basically offer role-based certifications and fundamental certifications across different technologies and different paths. So if you do work within an organization, just check that this program is also offered for your organization, and then you can basically just go through the path of just registering for a classroom based on the certification path that you're also looking to following and going on and learning more about.
Perfect. Thank you. And just to make mention, we do have instructor-led training available as well, as Sarah mentioned. And so like she was saying, classroom training or instructor-led training, that's available for all of our certification that we have that's in market. This next question is for Eric, and we get this question a lot, Eric, and I've seen it asked in the chat here today, but for someone who's interested in the cloud, but maybe has traditionally worked or been focused on the on-premise space, what should they do to get started? What's kind of the best path that you would recommend?
Oh, that's a good one, because there are so many options. It's really what interests you. What interests you, and what do you focus on from an on-prem world that you learn? Is it around security? Is it around networking? Is it around infrastructure and architecture? But as we're going to the cloud, you don't even have to jump all the way to the cloud. As a on-prem focused person, you could be looking at Azure Stack as an edge-based appliance and managing the cloud in your data center on-prem. Hybrid is so prevalent that you don't have to make the full jump to the cloud. You could just be stepping your way there a little bit at a time. Now, if you are going to make that full jump, I would say you probably want to look and say either fundamentals as a place to start to make sure you have the terminology and the basic understanding and foundational elements of that, and then look at the admin or developer or data science if those are the particular areas of interest and expertise that you currently have in an on-prem world.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We definitely get that question a lot from folks, so I appreciate that. Sudarshan, there is a question. This next one is going to be for you. We know that COVID has had a huge impact on people around the world. As we think about the investment that Microsoft has made in skilling, what is available to people who are maybe furloughed or have been laid off or are job seekers as a result of COVID? Do we have anything that's available that Microsoft has in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, from a learning perspective, there is a lot of learning resources available on Microsoft Learn. So you can go to Microsoft Learn and look at specific areas that is of interest to you, whether it's in the security space or Azure or any of the other technology areas. There's training content available. So that's where you get started with, and these are all very small bite-sized learning. So you can complete them at your own pace. It's all free. So that's something that you should leverage. In addition to that, we also have a certification offer, certification exam offer that we are offering to people that are out of jobs. It's a special discount, especially for people that are furloughed and they're looking for opportunities to skill up so that they can get jobs. So I would encourage all of you to go to Microsoft Learn to learn more about that offer. It's a $15 exam offer that we are specifically making available for those impacted by COVID. And so these are all the opportunities that you can leverage and then skill up so that you can get connected to jobs. And because of the certification and the learning, there is also a connection to LinkedIn. So the top jobs that are relevant to that specific skill set, we'll also make that available through this experience that I just mentioned on Microsoft Learn. So I would encourage all of you who are impacted to leverage those opportunities for learning, for certification exams, as well as those connections to jobs that we are providing through this experience.
Perfect. And then a follow-up question for you, Sudarshan. For those that can't actually get into a testing center physically because either they're closed or it's not safe, do we have another option for people to test?
Yes, absolutely. And this option is getting really popular. So in the past, before that is pre-COVID, we used to have a lot of people going into test centers to take their exams, but now they can do it at the convenience of their home or their office, or I guess home in the COVID world. And that option is called remote proctoring. It's online proctoring where you can sign up to take an exam at your own time. There is a schedule available where you can go schedule the exam. And there is some system checks that you need to do prior to taking the exam so that you make sure your computer, your network, and your camera is all working. And once you do that system check, then you can dial into the exam experience on the day of your exam and then go through that online at the convenience of your home. So you don't have to go to a test center, and that's available through online proctoring with our partnership with Pearson VUE. So you can leverage that.
Perfect. Thank you. Definitely some innovation in this space, and we're excited that we're able to support folks being able to take exams remotely if going into a test center is not safe for you at this point in time. This next question is for Liberty, and Liberty, I know you get this question a lot, but when we think about preparing for certification, is it enough to just complete, say, the learning paths on Microsoft Learn, and does that qualify you and prepare you for certification?
So my mantra is get trained, get experience, get certified. So the training is really a good first step, but our certification exams, quite honestly, are hard. And so this should make you, when you pass one, when you earn one of our certifications, you should be incredibly proud of what you've accomplished, because we really want to make sure that you are truly qualified to be an Azure administrator, an Azure developer, or a Microsoft 365 enterprise administrator, whatever it is you're interested in. So the learning path will be a really great first step. It covers all of the content that we'll have on the exam. It gives you the basic skills to get ready for it, but you really do have to have experience in that technology to be able to pass our exams, because we're not asking you simple questions about what, where do you go to do X, Y, and Z. What we're saying is, here's a problem you have to solve, and unless you really understand the technology, you're not going to be able to answer the question. So get trained, get experience, get certified.
I love that. Get trained, get experience, get certified. That's wonderful. Another question, Liberty, that has come up in the chat that I know is for you is, can you walk through, because you had talked about cert renewal before and things like that. Could you actually walk through when a certification expires, what happens to it, and then when someone actually renews their certification, what happens to it? Can you walk through the logistics of that a little bit?
Yep. So about 6 months before your certification will expire, you will get a notification from Microsoft saying it's time to renew your certification. And when you go through that and you take action, you will be sent to the learning path, and you can choose to do the learning path or not. And then you will be get an option to start the assessment. And you just need to pass the assessment before your certification expires. If you're, for whatever reason, you missed the 4 different emails that we will send you over the course of that 6 months to remind you of this great opportunity, your certification will expire as on the day that it says in your transcript. So when that happens, if your certification expires and you still want to be whatever it was you were, an Azure administrator, let's just say, you will have to retake the exam that's associated with that certification. So don't let your certification expire. Go through cert renewal. It will increase the expiration date or add 12 months to the expiration date on your certification. So if it was going to expire on June 12th, June 12th, 2021, your certification will be extended to June 12th, 2022. And then 6 months before that, you'll be asked to do the renewal again. So it should be a very a predictable cadence on when you're going to be told to renew your certification, and it will be just frequent enough so that there will be some changes in the technology, and then you will keep your skills up to date, and it will be great. So you don't ever have to take an exam again until you want a new certification.
Perfect. Thank you. This next question is for Sarah. Sarah, could you kind of talk through some of your favorite courses that you teach?
Yeah, of course. So I primarily teach courses within the data and AI domain. So I focus a lot on those. I focus a lot on role-based certifications. So based on what I mentioned before, those are those that are specified to a specific job role. So the courses that I teach are DP200 201, which is now actually transitioning to a new course called DP203. So for those looking to get certified, look at the new certification path, because it's a lot different than the older one. And then I also teach a lot on the AI as well as the data science certification paths. So my favorite ones definitely is the data engineering path, just because I love working with data and I love our data technologies. And I feel like the path that we have for certification in data engineering just gives you a lot of information, a lot of the skill sets that's required for the day-to-day on the job engineering role. So those are the ones that I cover essentially, but basically the data engineering path is my favorite.
Perfect. That was great. I always like asking that question. So with that, we are actually out of time for questions. Thank you so much for everyone for attending this session, for asking all of your questions. Our moderators are going to still remain on to make sure that we're getting some of the last minute chat questions and cover off any of the questions. But just as a reminder, here are a few resources for you for kind of to continue your journey. So we have a curated experience on Microsoft Learn that has pulled together all of the resources resources from Microsoft Ignite. So if you want to check that out, we definitely recommend that. Make sure that you bookmark our certification page on Microsoft Learn. We also have our Microsoft Learn community, which is a great place to ask questions, get your questions answered, stay up to date with all those changes that Liberty had been talking about within the tech community. And so we've got the Microsoft Learn community and blog. We also have Microsoft certified trainers who are answering questions in that space. So that's a great place to get your questions answered if you have any more questions following up from today. And then if you haven't heard about it, which I hope you certainly have, is the Microsoft Ignite Cloud Skills Challenge, which is a curated challenge experience for Microsoft attendees. So go check that out in the Learning Zone. With that, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you soon.